Doubts? She said, her voice shaking. No, you can't just doubt just like that. Her eyes flickered away for a second. Then she forced herself to steady her breathing, straightened her posture like it could fix what was happening. Okay, she said quietly. Fine. She tried again. Ask me anything, she said. Go ahead. Ask me. He looked at her. He said nothing. You think I cannot answer, she said. Ask me. Whatever you want to know, I will answer it. He moved. Fast. Not the slow, unhurried movement he used for everything else. Fast. His hand closed around her throat, and she was pressed back against the bed before she understood what was happening. He kept one knee on the bed. His face was close to hers. Not touching. Just close. Close enough that she could see every detail of his eyes, and what was in them was not anger. It was something colder than anger. Something that had made decisions already and was simply waiting for the right moment to act on them. He reached to the side without looking away from her face. He picked up the cigarette from where it had been resting. He brought it to his lips. He took a long, slow drag. The ember burned bright orange. His eyes stayed on hers the entire time. Then he leaned forward slightly, and he blew the smoke directly into her face. Slow, deliberate, every particle of it. She did not cough. She did not turn away. She held his gaze through the smoke with her jaw set and her hands gripping the duvet on either side of her. He watched her do it. Something moved in his eyes. Then he spoke. Quietly. The way he said everything that actually mattered. You have exactly one more chance, he said, to tell me the truth. He held her gaze. After that, he said, I stop asking. The room was completely silent. She looked up at him, at those dark eyes that had not blinked once, at the absolute certainty in his face, at a man who meant every word he said and had never needed to say anything twice in his life. Something moved through her that she did not have a name for. Not fear exactly. Something adjacent to fear that had other things mixed into it she was not going to examine right now. She said nothing. He looked at her for one more long moment. He put the cigarette between his lips. He stood up. He looked down at her on the bed. Something moved behind his eyes. A calculation. He looked at her the way you look at something you have already decided is not worth the energy. Intimidating her was pointless, and going further down that road was a direction he did not go. Not with women. He straightened. He looked at her one final time. Cold. Flat. Then he walked out. The door closed behind him. She lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The cigarette smoke was still in the air above her. She did not move for a long moment. Then she sat up. She pressed her fingers to her temples. Okay, she said quietly, to the ceiling, to herself, to nobody. He doubted you from the first night. She stood up and walked to the window. Which means he is still looking, she muttered. Which means he has not stopped. Which means wherever Amaka is right now, she is not safe. She pressed her palm flat against the cold glass. Soul blazed below her. Somewhere in that city Amaka was sleeping or hiding or running and had no idea that the people looking for her had gotten this close. And you are in here, she said, playing her, buying her time, except the man does not believe you. She turned from the window. She walked to the door and back. Then back to the window. So what does he do when he confirms it, she said. He goes back to looking, he goes harder, he uses everything he has. She stopped walking. And he has everything, she said. She sat on the edge of the bed. She thought about Amaka's face, the way she looked over her shoulder every time they left the apartment, the way she slept with one ear open, the way she had learned to pack a bag in under 3 minutes because you never knew when you needed to move. 3 years of that. 3 years of running from something she could not fully name. I have to figure out their next move, Amara said, before they make it. She looked at the door. You monitor, she said. That is what you do. You watch. You pay attention. You figure out what their next move is before they make it. You find out how close they are to finding her. And then you figure out how to stop it. Which means I need to see what is happening in this house, she said. What they know, how they are moving, who they are talking to. Simple, she said. Then she opened her eyes. Absolutely not simple, she said. She threw herself over the bed. Tonight, she said. You start tonight? Throughout that day. She watched everything. She watched the guards change shifts. She counted them. She noted which corridors they covered and which ones they left between rotations. She watched Shin move through the house. The way he appeared and disappeared. The way he was always slightly closer to conversations than he needed to be. She watched Kang Jae. From careful distances. The way he worked. The men who came to him. The calls he took standing at the window of his office with his back to the room. The way the entire house organized itself around his movements without anyone appearing to coordinate it. She watched all of it, and she learned nothing useful. Not that day. That night she could not sleep. She lay in the dark, listening to the house settle around her. Then she got up. She looked at the clock. Late. The house was quiet. She waited. She sat on the floor by the door and listened to the house settle around her. The sounds changing as the night got later. Guards moving, shifting. The particular quality of silence that came when a large house finally exhaled. She had been watching all day. She had counted the guard rotation. She had mapped the corridors in her head. Which ones they covered. Which ones had gaps. How long those gaps lasted. 30 seconds between the east corridor guard turning the corner and the next one appearing at the far end. Maybe 40 if she was lucky. She stood up. She opened the door. She moved. One hand trailing the wall, quiet feet on the marble. Through the gap in the rotation before the next guard appeared. She found the staircase. She went down slowly, one step at a time. The ground floor was dim and still. Blue-grey light from the city coming through the tall windows. She moved through it carefully. She needed something, anything. A document left out, a phone on a counter, a name written somewhere. Anything that told her how close they were, what their next move was, how much time Amaka had. She pushed the kitchen door open slowly and stopped. He was standing at the counter, his back to her, shirtless. The tattoos covered everything, back, arms, climbing up his neck, dark and deliberate in the low kitchen light. He was making coffee. She stood completely still. He had not turned around. She took one slow step backward, then another. Her hand found the doorframe behind her. She was almost out. "Do you have the answers now?" he questioned. Quiet. Calm, not turning around. She froze. He poured his coffee, set the pot down. Then he turned. He looked at her in the doorway. She opened her mouth. "I was just—" She started. He looked at her. "The corridor," she said. "Upstairs. I could not sleep, so I was walking. Just walking. The corridor upstairs." He picked up his coffee. He looked at her over the rim. "And then I came down," she said. "Because the corridor upstairs was—" There was an echo. "I noticed an echo earlier today. Actually very interesting architecture, whoever designed this house, really." He set his coffee down. "I do not remember hiring a house supervisor," he said, and started walking toward her. Slow, unhurried, like time belonged to him personally. She stammered, stepping back. One step, two. Her back hit the wall. He kept coming. He stopped directly in front of her. He reached past her and picked up the apple sitting on the counter beside the doorframe. He bit into it. He looked at her while he chewed. Those dark eyes in the low kitchen light. The tattoos. The complete, unbothered stillness of a man who had never once been caught off guard by anything and was not starting now. She looked at the apple, then at him. "You really like apples," she said. One corner of his mouth moved. "Planning on getting a tree," he said. "Seems useful." He did not move. He stayed exactly where he was, right there. Close enough that she could see the detail of every tattoo on his chest in the low kitchen light. Close enough that she could smell the coffee and the faint smoke still on him. He looked at her, said nothing. She waited for him to speak. He did not speak. The kitchen was completely quiet. The city hummed blue beyond the window behind him. She opened her mouth. "The apple thing was funny," she said. "The tree, that was actually—" He looked at her. She stopped, started again. "I am serious about the corridor echo, though," she said. "The acoustics in this house are genuinely interesting. Whoever the architect was, they really—" He looked at her. She stopped again. She pressed her lips together. She looked at the counter beside her. She looked at the window. She looked back at him. He was still looking at her. Not blinking, not shifting, not giving her anything to work with. Just those dark eyes in the low light doing exactly what they always did. Reading everything. Missing nothing. She ran out of things to say. For the first time since she had arrived in this house, she had nothing left to put between herself and the silence. She stood against the wall and said nothing. He leaned slightly closer. Just slightly. Just enough. "Camera 4, he said quietly. "East corridor. Second floor." She looked at him. "You walked past it 3 times this afternoon," he said, counting the rotation. "Timing the gap." Her stomach dropped. "Camera 7, he continued. "Main staircase landing. You stood there for 4 minutes at 6:15 this evening. Looking down." She said nothing. "Camera 12, he said. "Outside my office. You were there for 40 seconds before Shin came around the corner, and you moved." He looked at her. Completely still, completely cold. "I have 23 cameras in this house, Amara," he said. "I have watched every single thing you have done today." The kitchen was completely airless. She looked at him. He looked back. "So," he said quietly, "the next time you decide to monitor my house," he held her gaze, "know that I am already watching you do it." He straightened. He picked up his coffee from the counter. He turned back to the counter like she was no longer worth the direction of his face. Go to bed, he said. She stood against the wall for a moment, then she pushed off it. She walked back up the stairs. She got into bed. She pulled the duvet up. She stared at the ceiling. She had gone downstairs to find information. He had known every move she made all day. He had let her think she was invisible. And then he had told her, calmly, over an apple, in his kitchen. At midnight, she closed her eyes. Her heart was doing the thing again. She told it to stop. It did not listen. If you are watching this and your heart is doing something it has no business doing right now, just know so is hers. Subscribe right now. Like this video, share it. Because what is building in this house between these two people is the part nobody planned for, and it is only just beginning. Morning came grey and quiet. She was up before 7. She showered, she dressed. She went to the window and looked at Seoul doing its ordinary morning things without her. She turned from the window. She needed to think clearly today. She needed a plan that actually worked. She opened her bedroom door. The corridor was empty. She stepped out. She walked to the top of the staircase and looked down. The house was quieter than yesterday. Different energy. She went down. She found the dining room empty. She found the main sitting room empty. She stood in the corridor and listened. The men were still there. She could feel the house still operating around her. But the particular weight that filled every room when Kang Jae was in it was absent. He was gone. She let out a breath she had not known she was holding. Then a voice came from behind her. "Good morning." She turned. Shin was standing at the end of the corridor. Dark uniform, neat as always. That pleasant, forgettable face arranged into something warm and easy. He was carrying a tray. "Breakfast. I thought you might want to eat somewhere other than your room today," he said. "There is a smaller dining room off the east wing. More comfortable." She looked at him, at the tray, at his pleasant face. "Where is he?" she said. "Mr. Kang has business this morning," Shin replied. "He will be back this evening?" She nodded once. She followed him to the smaller dining room. It was what he said. Smaller. Warmer. A round table by a window that looked out onto the east wing garden. Less like a room built to impress, and more like a room built to actually sit in. She sat. Shin set the tray down. He did not leave immediately. He sat across from her. She looked at him. He smiled. "How are you finding it here?" he said. "Honestly." "Honestly," she said, "I have been kidnapped and told I am someone's wife." "So—" He almost laughed. "Fair," he said. "It is not a typical situation." "No," she said, "it is not." She picked up her fork. She ate. He sat with his hands folded on the table looking at her with that warm, patient expression. "Mr. Kang," he said after a moment. "He is not easy to understand. From the outside, she said nothing. But he is not unreasonable," Shin said, "if you talk to him. If you are honest with him about what you know." She looked up. "What I know," she said. "About why you are here," Shin said. "About the situation." She held his gaze. "I do not know anything," she said. "I signed a delivery form. I ended up here. That is the full extent of what I know." Shin looked at her. His eyes did something behind their surface, something small, something that was there and then not there. "Of course," he said pleasantly. "Of course." He stood up. He straightened his jacket. "If you need anything today," he said, "I am here." He walked to the door. He stopped. He turned back as if he had just remembered something. "The photograph," he said casually. "The one Mr. Kang showed you. The young girl." She looked at him. "Have you given it any more thought?" he said. "Whether you might have seen her somewhere? Even briefly. Sometimes things come back to us." She looked at him, at his pleasant face, at his warm, patient eyes, at the question that was dressed like casual conversation, but was not casual conversation at all. "No," she said. "Nothing has come back to me." Shin held her gaze for just 1 second longer than necessary. "Of course," he said again. He walked out. She sat at the round table by the window and looked at the door he had gone through. Then she looked at the garden outside. She picked up her fork. She put it back down. Something was wrong with Shin. She had felt it from the first night. But this morning it had a shape now. He was not asking because Kang Jae had sent him to ask. She was certain of that. He was asking for himself. She pressed her lips together. She looked at the garden. The fountain ran quietly in the morning light. She picked up her fork again. She ate slowly. And she thought, 2 people in that house are looking for the same girl. But they do not want to find her for the same reason. Subscribe right now. Like this video. Share this with someone. Because Amara just felt something she cannot name yet. And she is the only one in that house paying attention. He came back at 11:43. She knew the exact time because she had been lying awake, watching the clock the way she had been doing every night in this house. Not from fear anymore. From habit. from the particular alertness of someone whose body had decided sleep was a luxury for people whose lives made sense. She heard the front door. She heard the house shift. Then she heard something else, something slower than his usual movement, something that dragged slightly on the marble. She sat up. She told herself it was not her business. She lay back down. She stared at the ceiling for approximately 40 seconds. Then she got up. She opened her door. The corridor was dimly lit. 2 guards at their stations. But their eyes were tracking toward the staircase with the particular stillness of men who had seen this before and had learned not to react. She went to the staircase landing and looked down. He was crossing the entrance hall below. Alone. His jacket was in his hand. His shirt was dark on one side in a way that was not the fabric. He was walking steadily, but the steadiness was the kind that cost something. She watched him reach the bottom of the staircase. He looked up. Their eyes met. Neither of them moved. Then he looked back down and started climbing. She stepped to the side to let him pass. He passed her without speaking. She turned and looked at his back. The shirt, the way he held his left arm slightly away from his body. "You are bleeding through your shirt," she said. "Good evening to you too," he said. He kept walking. "That is not a small amount of blood," she said. "Thank you for the assessment. Do you have a doctor in this house?" she said. "Go to bed, Amara." "Do you?" she said. He stopped. He did not turn around. "He is unavailable tonight," he said. She looked at his back, at the dark stain spreading slowly. She thought about walking back to her room. She thought about it very seriously. "Come," she said. He turned then. He looked at her. "I worked in a restaurant for 14 months, she said. "Before that I spent 2 years doing night shifts in a hospital kitchen in Lagos because the money was better and the hours were worse, and you take what you can get. I have seen enough to clean a wound and wrap it properly." He looked at her. His face gave her nothing. "Come," she said again. He came. She sat him on the edge of the bed in his room. His room was exactly what she had imagined and nothing she had prepared for. Large, dark wood, books that had actually been read, a window that faced the city the same way hers did but from a different angle, everything ordered with the particular precision of someone who needed to know where everything was at all times. She went to the bathroom and found what she needed without asking. She came back with her hands full. He had not moved. She stood in front of him. "Shirt," she said. He looked at her. "I cannot clean it through the fabric," she said. He pulled the shirt over his head in one movement. "Yes, let's slow it all the way down and do it properly." She had seen the tattoos at his collar. She had not seen the rest of them. They covered everything. Chest, ribs, arms, a whole language written on his skin that she could not read. Dark and deliberate and telling a story she did not have the translation for. She looked at the wound. She stopped looking at everything else. "This is deep," she said. "I am aware," he said. "I was there. What happened? I walked into a wall with a knife. Very aggressive wall. She pressed the cloth to it." He did not flinch. Not even slightly. She pressed harder to check, and he sat there like she was adjusting a picture frame. "You have done this before," she said. "Had someone press a cloth against my wound aggressively to test my pain response," he said. "First time, actually. I was not testing anything. You pressed harder on purpose. I was checking the depth. By trying to reach my spine. She said nothing. He said nothing. She worked. The room was quiet in the particular way rooms get quiet when 2 people are close together and both pretending they are not aware of it. "This is going to sting," she said. "I have been stabbed," he said. "Your antiseptic is not going to be the thing that breaks me." She applied it. He exhaled once. Controlled. Through his nose. "That stings," he said. "I know. You could have warned me properly. I did warn you. You warned me and then did it immediately," he said. "A warning is supposed to give a man a moment to prepare." "How long do you need?" she said. "Would you like a calendar notification?" He looked down at her. She looked up at him. Something passed between them that neither of them named. She looked back at the wound. "Hold this," she said. She pressed his hand over the cloth. She reached for the bandage. He held it without speaking. She started wrapping. Steady hands, around his ribs. She had to lean slightly closer to get the angle right, and she focused on the bandage, and only the bandage, and absolutely nothing else in the room. "You should have a doctor on call," she said. "One that is actually available. Not one who conveniently disappears every time you come home looking like this." "I have a doctor, a present one." He was unavailable. "He is always unavailable when it matters," she said, "which means he is useless. Fire him and get one that answers the phone." "Are you managing my staff now?" "I am managing your wound," she said, "which your staff apparently cannot be bothered to do. So yes, temporarily. He looked down at the top of her head. She kept rapping. "You are very opinionated," he said. "You noticed," she said. "For someone in my house against her will. The opinion came with me," she said. "Free of charge. No contract required." She tied it off. She sat back and checked it once. Even, firm, holding properly. "Done," she said. She stood up and started gathering the used cloths. Efficient, automatic, the way she cleared a table at the end of service without thinking about it. "You do not have to—" he started. "I know," she said. She kept moving. She picked up the antiseptic. She turned to put it back on the counter behind her. "You are not what I expected," he said. She stopped. She did not turn around. "When they brought you in," he said. "You are not what I expected." She stood there with the antiseptic in her hand and her back to him, and something moving slowly through her chest that she did not have a name for yet. She turned around. He was still sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at her with that expression, the one she had only seen twice before, the one that lived behind everything else he showed the room. "What did you expect?" she said. He looked at her for a long moment. "Not you," he said. "The room was very quiet." She looked at him. He looked at her, and something about the way he said it, the simplicity of it, the way it came out without the sarcasm he wrapped around everything else. "Not you." Like he had prepared himself for something, and then she had walked through the door, and the preparation had been for the wrong thing entirely. It did something to her she immediately did not appreciate. "Well," she said, her voice completely even, "here I am, unbidden, unasked for, taking care of a wound you got from a very aggressive wall." The corner of his mouth moved. "Thank you," he said. She blinked. She had not expected that. From the way he looked at her, she had surprised him too, like the word had come out before he approved it. She opened her mouth. She should have left it there. Should have said "you are welcome" and walked out and gone back to her room and processed everything behind a closed door like a sensible person. "Just so we are clear," she said. "This changes nothing. I am still leaving. First opportunity. First door you forget to lock. First guard who looks the wrong way for 2 seconds. I am gone." He looked at her. "I know," he said. "Good. I will lock the doors better," he said. "I will find a window. The windows are reinforced. I will find something else." "You probably will," he said. She looked at him. He looked at her. "That was almost a compliment," she said. "Do not push it." "Too late," she replied. "I am keeping it. I am putting it in my pocket. You said I would probably find something else. That is respect. Grudging minimum respect, but I will take it." "I said no such thing. You implied it." "I implied nothing." "Kang Jae," she said, flat, direct, his name in her mouth the way she had started saying it somewhere in the last few days without deciding to. "You just told a woman you kidnapped that she would probably find a way out of your reinforced house. That is either respect or incompetence, and you do not strike me as incompetent." He stood up. The movement was fast for a man with a fresh wound, and she stepped back automatically, and then was annoyed at herself for stepping back. He was taller standing. She had not forgotten that exactly, but the room shrank slightly when he stood in it, and she was not going to give him the satisfaction of acknowledging that. "You talk," he said, coming toward her. "Slow, that walk. Like there are no consequences to talking." "I talk," she replied, standing her ground. "Like I have a mouth and a working brain. The combination produces words. It is biology." "Amara. Kang Jae." He stopped in front of her. She looked up at him. He looked down at her. "One day," he said quietly, "that mouth is going to cause you a problem you cannot talk your way out of." "Today is not that day," she said. "No," he replied. Something moved in his eyes. "Not today." He reached up. His hand closed around her throat. Not rough, not squeezing. Just there. His hand around her throat and his face close to hers and his eyes holding hers with something in them she was reading as fast as she could because she needed to know what it was. Not anger, not threat, something that wanted her to be still. That needed her close enough that she could not look away from whatever he was about to say. Her hands went to his wrist, not pulling, just resting there. She waited. He opened his mouth, and then he made a sound, short, sharp, involuntary. He dropped her immediately. His hand went to his ribs. She watched the pain move across his face, the first honest, uncontrolled thing she had seen on it. "Your wound," she said. "I know," he said through his teeth. "The angle you lifted your arm. I know. I literally just wrapped that—" "Amara!" His voice was tight, controlled, but tight. He straightened slowly. He looked at her. His jaw set, his eyes doing the thing where they went very flat and very cold because that was what he did when something had gotten past his defenses and he needed to rebuild them immediately. "Get out. Let me check if it—" "Get the hell out of my room." She looked at him, at the hand still pressed to his ribs, at the flatness in his eyes that was not actually flat. That was something else entirely, wearing flatness as a coat. She picked up the last cloth from the bed. She walked to the door. She stopped in the doorframe. She did not turn around. "Get some sleep," she said, "and eat something that is not an apple. Get out." "I am getting out," she said. "I am already in the doorframe. This is me getting out. I am simply finishing my sentence while doing it. Amara, sleeping and eating," she said. "Two things. Simple. Good night." She walked out. The corridor was dim. She walked without hurrying. Steady feet on the marble. Her hands were completely steady because she had made them that way a long time ago, and they knew how to behave, even when everything else was misbehaving. She was halfway to the staircase when she saw it, a figure, at the far end of the corridor, moving fast, not the loose, unhurried movement of a guard on rotation. Something else, something deliberate and quick and trying to be neither. She stopped. She looked. The figure turned the corner. Gone. She stood in the dim corridor and looked at the empty space where they had been. She could not see who it was from this distance in this light. But the build, the way they moved, the particular way the shoulders sat, she stood there. Then she walked to her room. She closed the door behind her. She sat on the edge of the bed. She sat there for a long time. She thought about the wound and the cloth and the antiseptic and the way he had said, "Not you," like the words had surprised him as much as they surprised her. She thought about his hand around her throat, not rough, just there. Like he needed her still, like he needed her close, like whatever he had been about to say required that she could not move away from it. She thought about the sound he made when the wound caught. The first real thing. The first thing that had come out of him without his permission. She thought about the way he said "get out" after. The flatness of it. The way people go flat when something has cracked open slightly and they need to close it before anyone can see inside. She thought about his hand dropping from her throat. The absence of it. She pressed her palms flat on her knees. She looked at the window. She looked at the city. Her mind moved somewhere she had not given it permission to go, and she caught it before it arrived. She pulled it back. She put it down firmly. No, she was in this house because Amaka needed time. She was in this house because someone with 23 cameras and a building full of men and a reach that covered half of Seoul was looking for her friend. She was not in this house because of anything else. She was not in this house because of a man with tattoos she had no business memorizing, and a wound she had no business caring about, and a voice that said her name differently than everyone else said it, and... She pulled it back again. She put it down harder this time. No. She lay back on the bed. She stared at the ceiling. The ceiling said nothing. The city hummed outside. She closed her eyes. Figure out who was in that corridor, she told herself. That is what you think about, not anything else. Figure out who was moving that fast at this hour, and what they were doing outside his room. She opened her eyes. She already knew. She had known from the moment she saw the shoulders. She just did not know yet what to do with knowing. She closed her eyes again. Tomorrow, she told herself. You deal with all of it tomorrow. Her heart said something she did not ask it to say. She told it to be quiet. It was quiet. For approximately 3 minutes. Then it started again. Who do you think that was? Because she is not ready to know what that means yet. And she is definitely not ready to know what his hand on her throat meant either. Subscribe. Share this. Like it. Because tomorrow she wakes up and something in this house has shifted, and nobody is ready for what shifts with it. She brought him an apple the next morning. She did not plan it. She was passing the kitchen. There was a bowl on the counter. Her hand moved before her brain issued any instructions on the matter. She found him in his office. The door was open. He was at the desk, papers in front of him. Reading glasses on that she had not known about and was going to pretend she had not noticed because he would absolutely use them against her somehow. She walked in. She set the apple on the desk beside his papers. She walked back out. She was 3 steps into the corridor when his voice came. You just walked into my office. The door was open, she said. She kept walking and put something on my desk. You are welcome, she said. I did not say thank you. Preemptive, she said. Silence, then the sound of him picking it up. She turned the corner. She smiled at the wall. She told her face to stop it. Her face did not stop it. 3 days later she saw him at the far end of the east corridor. It was early. Before the house fully woke, the light coming through the windows was thin and grey and very honest, the way early morning light is always honest about everything. He was standing at the window at the end of the corridor, just standing, looking out, no jacket, no performance, no room full of men organizing themselves around his presence. Just him and the window and the grey morning. She should have turned around. She did not turn around. She walked toward him. He heard her coming. She knew because his shoulders shifted slightly. But he did not move away from the window. She stopped beside him. She looked out at what he was looking at. The garden below. The fountain. The gate at the far end where the guard stood with his back to them. They stood there, both looking out. You could not sleep either, she said. I slept, he said. For how long? 2 hours. That is not sleep, she said. That is a brief loss of consciousness. He said nothing. Do you ever sleep properly? She said. Do you ever stop talking? He said. When I am unconscious, she said. Briefly. For 2 hours, apparently. He looked at her. She looked at the garden. The corner of his mouth moved. Your wound, she said. How is it? Fine. Let me see. It is fine. You said that last time, and last time you were bleeding through your shirt, she said. Your definition of fine needs review. He turned to face her. He lifted the edge of his shirt. She looked at the bandage. Still clean, edges holding. Fine, she said. As I said. She looked up. He had not stepped back. She was looking at his chest from approximately the distance you look at something when you meant to be further away and got distracted. She stepped back. Good, she said. Eat something today. Actual food. Not just the apple. She turned and walked back the way she had come. Amara, he said behind her. She stopped. She turned. He was still at the window, the grey light on him. That expression again, the one behind the locked door. The wound, he said. You asked? I asked, she said. Nobody asks, he said. He said it simply, like it was just a fact, like he was reading a number from a page. Nobody asks. She looked at him across the corridor. Something happened in her chest that she was going to examine never. Well, she said, I worked in a hospital kitchen. Old habit. She turned around. She walked away. She felt his eyes on her back the entire length of the corridor. Shin appeared that evening, the way Shin always appeared, from slightly nowhere, at the exact moment she was alone. She was in the small dining room, the round table by the window, the garden going dark outside. He sat across from her. You have been settling in, he said pleasantly. Appears so, she said. Mr. Kang seems... He paused, chose his word carefully. More comfortable, she looked at her food. Does he? She said. He is not an easy man to read, Shin said. But those of us who have known him a long time can see the difference. She said nothing. It must mean something to him, Shin said. Having you here, after everything. She looked up. His warm, patient face. His careful eyes. After everything, she said. The years of looking, Shin said. He held her gaze. For you. She looked at him. He smiled. It must feel strange, he said. Being found after so long. She picked up her fork. Strange is one word for it, she said. Shin looked at her for one moment longer than the conversation required. Then he stood. If you ever want to talk, he said. About any of it. The years before. Where you were. What happened. He straightened his jacket. I am a good listener, he said. He walked out. She sat at the round table and looked at the dark garden and thought about the way he said the years of looking. Not his years. The years. Like he had been counting them too. Like they belonged to him as much as anyone. She set her fork down. She looked at the door he had gone through. Something was very wrong with Shin. She had felt it from the beginning. Now she had a shape for it. She just did not yet know what to do with the shape. He said nobody asks. She heard everything he did not say after that. Subscribe like this, share it. Because Shin just showed his hand by 1 millimeter and she caught it. And Kang Jae is starting to feel something he has no name for yet. And this story is about to crack open.